Educators allegedly misdiagnosing students and improperly placing them in special education classes.
Why would y'all have unlicensed people to be working on kids that really need help?
A 4-year-old buckled in his car seat, killed when a plane crashed into their car. We investigate the airport danger zone. And an Atlanta News First investigation leads to new laws protecting used car buyers.
So if you're tampering with an odometer, that should be a felony. People used to go to prison for that.
When systems fail, people pay the price. We trace the damage, expose the truth, and fight to fix it. This is Uncovered by Atlanta News First Investigates.
Georgia educators filing complaints against the school districts they work for, including allegations unqualified staff members administered psychological evaluations on students. Atlanta News First investigative reporter Andy Parati spoke to a former Atlanta Public Schools employee about his complaint and its impact on students.
Oh, it's a dreamy effect. So you remember my rules of TikTok, right?
Natalie Robinson and her daughter Tanila go over the rules.
No inappropriate videos.
Of TikTok.
It's just strictly good dancing.
For the 12-year-old, the app is a way to connect to the world because she doesn't always feel comfortable doing it in person. A few years ago, Natalie asked Atlanta Public Schools to perform a psychological evaluation of her daughter, concerned she may have a learning disability.
So I have her read a sentence, like we work on reading, and I have her read a sentence, and it's like she'll stiff up. She'll just freeze up, like she's scared to read, or so I'm like, Nala, what's wrong?
The evaluation did find something wrong. It said her daughter tested significantly below average in multiple cognitive areas, including reading comprehension.
Yeah, comprehension was definitely the main one.
2 years later, though, Natalie learned something else may have gone wrong. According to this formal complaint filed with the Georgia Department of Education, the person who performed Tanala's psychological exam was allegedly not qualified to do so, writing they had no certification or licensure in child psychology. It wasn't her mother who filed the complaint. It was Roderick Walker, a former school psychologist with Atlanta Public Schools.
What's that potential harm?
Being placed in special education services when you didn't need to be placed in special ed.
Or a flawed evaluation that fails to identify the help Tanila needs in the classroom. Walker worked for the district for nearly 10 years before resigning last year. He claims Tanala's evaluation and dozens of others should be considered invalid because they were incorrectly conducted or performed by unqualified staff.
I mean, the state law specifically says that it has to be administered by a qualified examiner. Qualified. No more than you'd want a person posing as a doctor in the operating room.
I was actually shocked. It's just really shocking to find out that that's how the school system is. Like, why would y'all have unlicensed people to be working on kids that really need help?
Has the school district ever reached out to you?
No one ever reached out to me.
Has the Georgia Department of Education reached out to you?
Not at all. And I've been waiting on them to call me.
Records uncovered by Atlanta News First Investigates show Walker's state complaint reflects a broader trend. Internal documents show Georgia Department of Education staff alerted agency leadership 2 years in a row that they were seeing more complaints filed by current school staff about special education compliance issues and more complaints filed in districts who have not historically had complaints.
DeKalb doesn't go back to school till the 27th.
Lisa Morgan is president of the Georgia Association of Educators, which represents more than 30,000 members across the state.
I think it should be signaling to the Georgia Department of Education that we have a problem, and we need to be looking at how the system has, over the years, continued to add onto particularly special education teachers' plates.
Atlanta Public Schools denies Walker's claims and declined interview requests, writing, "Our investment in exceptional education is at an all-time high, and we are committed to continuous improvement for our students." But its special education department has faced scrutiny before. 2 years ago, an audit found widespread problems in how the district managed parts of its special education program, including problems following IEPs or individualized education programs.
There is not currently any monitoring to ensure that documents are in fact retained in Go IEP.
Among the most significant findings, auditors determined district and state procedures were not consistently followed when documenting student referrals for special education services.
I don't like that one.
The audit released 4 months before Tanila's exam, a reminder about the importance of following the rules.
You know you gonna have to delete that one. I ain't see that.
A lesson this former school psychologist claims Atlanta Public Schools and other districts have yet to learn.
It's signaling that schools aren't doing a good job of providing the appropriate services that are outlined for students with special needs.
Andy, excellent reporting as always. So if someone's watching and their kid had an APS evaluation, how do they know if it was done right, or how do they request a redo?
So if your child was evaluated by someone that you believe was unqualified, there's 2 things that you can do. You can simply reach out to the district, ask for that person's background, their credentials. The second thing you can do is request something called an IEE, an independent educational evaluation. That's something that sometimes school districts push back on because it costs extra money, but some parents want that second opinion.
What's the real life impact here when a child is mislabeled for special ed?
Yeah, it can be serious. Just like the former school psychologist mentioned, they can be moved on to a completely different educational experience and get specialized training in education that they simply do not need.
With APS now denying this, who's supposed to oversee or enforce these special ed rules?
Yeah, there is a mechanism for parents to file a complaint with the Georgia Department of Education. The U.S. Department of Education also has a division that investigates civil rights complaints, but that division has been largely gutted and moved to a completely different federal agency, and sometimes those complaints can take months to resolve, if not years. If you can afford it, hire an attorney or an advocate to help you navigate the special education law and the rights that your children have.
Good advice. Thanks so much, Andy.
Millions of Americans living in the shadow of an airport.
That airport, which the county refers to as an amenity, we consider it a menace.
We investigate the potential danger zones taking lives.
Planes are going down near airports, and it's often individuals on the ground who are left paying the price. Investigative reporter Josie Sturman discovered hundreds of people have been hurt and many others killed by accidents in the danger zone.
I did miss one once, and it changed my whole life.
Planes overhead, a noise that most of us tune out. Megan Bishop can never ignore.
They were close enough to you that you could see their faces.
Oh, we locked eyes for sure, yes.
Face to face with the pilot of a small plane struggling with engine trouble.
I knew in that moment that it was not going to be good.
It was catastrophic. The plane, just yards from the runway at North Perry Airport in Pembroke Pines, Florida, smashed into her car. Her 4-year-old son, Taylor, who had been buckled up in his car seat, was gone.
It was like my world went silent. And it's been a quiet world ever since.
That airport, which the county refers to as an amenity, we consider it a menace.
The NTSB has investigated at least a dozen crashes within 5 miles of North Perry since Taylor's death, 3 of them fatal. Broward County, which owns and operates North Perry Airport, has agreed to carry out a year-long study looking at operations and accident prevention strategies. The county told us safety is always a top priority and that it's consistently passed its annual state inspection with no safety, regulatory, or operational violations.
For us, it's very simple. Be safe or be gone.
Cities and towns from coast to coast are grappling with the impacts of urban sprawl that have landed homes and businesses just steps off the runway, and millions of Americans live or work in those danger zones. Our national investigative team, along with the Arnold Center for Investigative Journalism at Indiana University, analyzed NTSB data dating back to 2015. Since then, we found on more than 400 occasions, a plane has gone down within a quarter mile of a public airport runway, with hundreds injured and dozens killed.
I need extra help. Start evacuating.
In November of last year, a UPS cargo plane leaving Louisville dropped an engine during takeoff, igniting into a fireball before clipping a warehouse and crashing into an industrial area that borders the airport. All 3 crew on board were killed, along with 12 people just going about their lives on the ground. And in May, cameras captured what happened to a bakery truck from Baltimore, traveling the highly congested corridor near Newark Airport. The driver survived. A preliminary report says the plane carrying more than 200 people was too low as it came in for landing, just 15 feet above the New Jersey Turnpike.
So listen to this, it sounds like a missile.
Captain Steve Scheibner is a retired airline and military pilot turned social media educator, breaking down aviation accidents and trends, like crashes happening in close proximity to airports.
They need to have the dialogue about the safety of airports and the urban sprawl around them. I don't know that you can go back.
But in the future, Scheibner believes there should be formal disclosure for those who live close to runways or are considering it. He also supports a moratorium on development for miles around airports, something that's uncommon even in communities our team found had repeated crashes.
I think things can change. It probably takes longer now than it used to in the past.
The calls for change also continue in Pembroke Pines, where Taylor Bishop's death is a stark reminder of the risk.
A handful of states, including California, Arizona, and Virginia, include proximity to airports as one of the required disclosures when selling a home, and some local governments have their own requirements. But in many cases, those disclosures are primarily about the noise, not safety, and often don't apply to rental properties.
2.5 million cars on the road have tampered odometers. Our investigation helped change Georgia law. Next on Uncovered, what you need to know before you buy.
This is independent investigative reporting.
This bill was inspired by her story that we featured at Atlanta News First Investigates.
First, to expose issues that impact Atlanta.
Some of that inspired by our Reading Reset investigative series.
First, for results, after our reporting, state lawmakers consider 20 new laws.
It is the most comprehensive oversight bill the state's seen here for HOAs.
That's the power of independent investigative reporting.
Atlanta News First, independent first for Atlanta.
If you're buying a used car in Georgia, there's a new law that could save you thousands of dollars. An Atlanta News First investigation prompted state lawmakers to make odometer fraud a felony.
Talking to Chairman Powell and myself, it seemed like all of my life, it was a felony if you tampered with an odometer. I'm not sure how that got changed.
Georgia State Representative John Corbett is chairman of the House Committee on Motor Vehicles. He says the committee had no idea that odometer fraud was a misdemeanor in Georgia when it met last year to discuss a bill about veterans' license plates.
And then one of my colleagues sent me a clip of the news report that you did. You see the dangers in this video that we had.
The allegations sparked an Atlanta News First investigation.
The Atlanta News First investigation that changed Senate Bill 293's direction was about a first-time car buyer who bought this 2013 Honda Ridgeline.
You loved the car.
I did.
And you were like, I'm buying this car.
Yeah.
Shadeja Johnson and her mom found it on Facebook Marketplace. It was advertised with 153,000 miles.
And seen a Honda with great mileage, and I was like, oh God, this is the right thing.
The right thing turned into a big mistake. That night, they got a check engine light. The next day, they got a mechanic. The mechanic suspected what a Carfax history report confirmed. They bought a truck with 285,000 miles, nearly double the mileage advertised.
It's a shame that somebody, there's people out there take advantage of, especially this 18-year-old young lady, first car. We knew we had to do something to strengthen the penalty, consumer protection.
So if you're tampering with an odometer, that should be a felony. People used to go to prison for that.
In February, the Motor Vehicle Committee amended the Veterans License Plate Bill to include odometer fraud. It made it a felony with fines from $1,500 to $10,000 and possible prison time. It passed unanimously, going into effect July 1st, 2026.
Next to buying a house, usually your automobile is the second largest purchase that someone makes.
Right.
So we needed to do something to address that issue, and I'm glad you uncovered that.
Harry, this is a big deal after your reporting. Now that this new law has kicked in, what actually changes for buyers? How will it be enforced? And my big part of this question is, does it go after the private sellers on Marketplace?
Well, the fact that the state is now committed to hiring 2 new investigators, that may not seem like a lot, but it's something, and it's a start so that they can hold repeat offenders, or if they find something, or if they get complaints about odometers being tampered with, that they can go after these specific individuals. I mean, I didn't realize what a big problem it was, not only in Georgia, but nationwide. I thought it was a thing of the past where you had to take out the whole front section and manually roll back, where now they pull out the cluster and they replace it with a cluster from maybe a junked car with lesser mileage. And it may not be perfect, but instead of having like a 300,000 mile car, you think you're getting a good deal on something that's got 150 and you're getting it for like $5 or $6 grand. I just think it's amazing the fact that lawmakers saw this and were like, wait a second, it's not a felony in Georgia. And then they started looking into it and they're like, wait a second, when did this I don't know when this happened, but we're putting it back. Mm-hmm. And now instead of a misdemeanor fine of, $1,000 or less, now we're looking at, $10,000 potentially and possible jail time because it's a felony.
Mm-hmm. So often when we're talking about these new laws going into effect, we get the question, is this retroactive? Does it help the people who've already been impacted or burned? Let's apply that to this. For people who've already been in this situation, is there any path forward for them through this new law? Any advice you can give on that?
Well, like with any law, it's not going to be retroactive. And I should clarify that the individual that we talked about in this story with DD Auto Brokers, his case is in the system at the time that we're recording this, but it still hasn't been resolved. But even if it is, let's just say that they do find that there was odometer fraud and that he was tampering with cars, which again is only alleged, it would be a misdemeanor. So this helps moving forward. I think the main thing for people to understand is that there are some red flags out there, and I don't know if I'm stepping on your next question or not, but when you see a car for sale, a lot of people sell cars on Facebook Marketplace now. And if you see a car that's for sale and it doesn't list the vehicle identification number, but it does list the mileage so that you can't go and check, that's red flag number one. The second thing you should ask is the person selling it, are they a broker as opposed to a car dealer? Mm-hmm. So Georgia is one of very few states that allows people to be car brokers. That means they don't actually have to have a lot where they can keep their cars. I don't know where they're keeping them. Lawmakers are looking into this for the future. That's why you saw in the story like an office building with all these people in it. But if you're on Facebook, and you should ask, are you a broker? Is this a private party sale? I mean, if the car's parked in somebody's driveway and you can, but sometimes brokers will do that too. So you have to be very specific. But at the end of the day, nothing beats taking the car, to a mechanic for an inspection. So I think I got everything in there that I wanted. I will say this, that we did not intend for this to turn into a law, like where it actually, like that wasn't our goal in this. We just wanted to inform the public. And we're just glad that state lawmakers took notice and acted.
Important work. You can listen to all of our extended conversations on these stories right now on our podcast, Behind the Investigation. Just search Atlanta News First on your favorite podcast platform. You're watching Uncovered by Atlanta News First Investigates, a weekly hour-long investigative show with new episodes launching every Sunday at 7.